Hi, my name is Katie Weatherup and I'm a shamanic practitioner, and one of the requests for healing I get over and over again has to do with people who something is really off on the energetic level and they urgently want some help with this. So this could be entities. So sometimes people are like, wow, I can really feel that they're these beings and they're poking at me and there's this energy attached to me and it's scary and awful and it's being really impactful and I don't know what to do about this. I want you to help me out. Please clear these things off of me. Or maybe it's the feeling that, somebody's really triggered with me and I really feel like they're sending me negative energy. There's a curse and some black magic happening or something along those lines. And so I'm making this video because I want to share some free resources and some suggestions that I hope will be really helpful, because what I find is, of all the people who are experiencing these problems, and before I go on, I just want to say I'm so sorry if you're in that place. It is really scary to have something awful and intrusive and invasive and impactful happening at that level. It's very scary. It's very disruptive. It's a super impactful. I've seen a lot of people be in a lot of emotional and psychological distress because of this kind of experience. And so I want to acknowledge how hard and scary this can be. And I also want to acknowledge how hard it is to have a problem that gets treated often as being all in your head. So when you reach out for help and are trying to find someone, there are a lot of people who just want to put you on psychiatric medication or dismiss you as a crazy person. And then when you do start looking out there, there's a huge range of who's out there. So how do you even differentiate? Like, you can't exactly go on Yelp and say, what are the results of entity clearing by this person in the same way. So there are people who reach out to me to get help with this who are really suited for me to help, who are a really good match, and there are people who are a really poor match. And speaking to that, it's hard to know who's the right person to trust. I want to tell you a little bit more about my background so you can make an informed choice about whether you would like to try working with me. So I want to be really clear about what I can do and what I can't do and what the situation looks like, because this is absolutely not an area where I can give you a money-back guarantee on the outcome. So one of the prerequisites to working with me is I ask that people watch this video. For one thing, it'll give you some free suggestions. So even if you don't work with me, I'm going to give you some of my very, very best tools for dealing with this, because I want everyone to be free of it. It is an awful experience to be having, and it's a complex kind of experience. And at the same time, I really want to be in my sweet spot. So I don't want to take money from someone who is scared and desperate and overwhelmed and perhaps, dealing with struggle to earn a living, which often, goes with being very freaked out and scared and overwhelmed, and have us both be unhappy with the experience. And so to give you a little bit of just kind of context for what I look for someone who's suitable, I want to make sure that it's someone who's willing to do their homework, because if you're not willing to work on this, I can't do this from the outside. I can't just fix it for you. If I could, I promise I would. There's stuff I can do. I'm very good at this soul retrieval process that you can read about, and I can do that. You just get on the phone with me, I take a journey, I do the shamanic work, and things are shifted around. But with entities, a lot of times people think of it as something that's like an infection. So if you have bacteria, you would then have antibiotics that would kill the bacteria, and then the medical model would deal with it, and then you don't have the problem and life goes on, and that's great. And the image in people's minds when they're reaching out to me with entities is, I want you to clear these things off of me. There are these things in my field, they're poking at me, I can hear them, I can feel them, and I want to take this moment to say, I believe you. I haven't had anyone come to me and say, I have entities the first time, and I didn't find them there. Now, the second time, sometimes it looks a little different, but bear with me. So so I believe you. I believe that you have this thing going on, but people who are seeking help tend to assume it's like an infection, an intrusion. So like taking out a splinter, take out these things, send them on their way, and then I'll be okay. And I get that. I get why you would think that. I get why that would be the picture in your mind. And frankly, I'm really good at doing that. I have 20 years experience doing this work with shamanism. I've been working with entities since the very beginning of my path. Even when I was doing Reiki, I was learning how to take things out of people. And I am very, very good at getting things to go away. But the problem is that if you have a really big entity problem, it's not something intruded and we make it go away and then you're fine like it would be if you had a bacterial infection and we did a round of antibiotics and it killed the bacteria and then you get to go on with your life. It's more like an immune deficiency, an immune system compromised. So if you're somebody who's done chemotherapy and at the end your immune system's really, really damaged, you're going to expect that it's a journey to build it back up. You're going to expect that when you're done with chemotherapy, you probably want to eat a lot of whole foods and drink a lot of water and give yourself a lot of rest and take really good supplements. And if you're someone who's dealing with something, you know, like rheumatoid arthritis or something like that, you know it's not something to be taken out. We need to strengthen the balance of your system. And I'm not a medical practitioner, so the details of how that works are going to be with someone who's working on those levels. But I like the analogy because if you come in to work with me on this problem, you should expect that, you know, someone can't restore someone's immune system. Like if someone goes in, they can't put them on a medication to restore their immune system if they're eating tons and tons of junk food and staying up way too late and not getting any exercise and not doing any of the holistic body care. Their success in going to their doctor with an immune problem, there's not a whole heck of a lot the medical model can do. You know, it's like if somebody has diabetes and they're in the complexity, and I don't mean to make light of this, but the complexity of being compliant with the diet and they're not complying at all, the medical model can give you medication and things like that, but their ability to halt or reverse the process is really, really finite. So if you want to work with me on this, expect that you're going to need to do exercises and homework and that it's going to be a journey of getting your auric field protected. And one of the analogies I like to use is there are just a lot of entities out there. A lot of them aren't particularly harmful, but they're pervasive, kind of like mosquitoes. So you wouldn't try to get rid of all the mosquitoes around you, but then stay in a place that had mosquitoes outside with the windows open with no screens, without putting on any bug repellent. You know, so we have these ways of dealing with keeping things out. And when our auric field is really healthy and vibrant and vital, it's just hard for things to get attached to us. And when it's out of balance and when it has rips and tears and when it's vulnerable, even if we clear all the entities today, you could pick up another bunch of them tomorrow or the next day or next week and still be dealing with the same situation. And then from your point of view, you're going to be like, wow, I spent this money to do this session with you and I didn't get results. And I'm going to be like, well, we talked about, you know, the fact that this was this thing. And that's the situation I really don't want to find myself in. It's no fun. Another piece that I think is really important is with everyone I've worked with, and I've worked with many, many clients around entities, entities are never the person's only problem. Entities go hand in hand with addiction. So if somebody's drinking a lot of alcohol or smoking a lot of marijuana, I may not necessarily tell you you have to give that up, but I may tell you you're going to have to do a lot of extra practices and work in order to continue drinking alcohol and to stay clear of entities. Like if that's the equation, we'll work with that, but you're going to probably spend an hour a day building up the extra energy that you need to offset the lifestyle choice of doing something that tends to compromise your energetic field. Sometimes, frankly, there's a intersection between people who are dealing with mental illness and people who are dealing with entities. You're a lot more vulnerable if you have some mental illness, and a lot of people do. There's a huge percentage of the population. It's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 5. I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head. So it's super common, but if you're not treating that, then the results that we get with the entities, it's like the entities are the symptom rather than the root cause, and we want to go back and deal with root cause as much as possible. It's part of why I only deal with entities in the context of a soul retrieval, because if I get your soul parts back, you're filled up with your own energy, which makes it harder for things to attach to you. The other thing is, all my teachers have said, and it's certainly been my experience, it is 1,000 times easier to clear entities off someone than it is to persuade them that they are gone, or to clear a curse, or to clear, redirect someone who's sending someone negative energy. And the reason for this is, if you've been dealing with this problem for a long time, which most people have, because it's vulnerable to ask for help, and you've probably tried some stuff yourself, and you've probably lived with it for a while. We have these neurological pathways that are used to thinking about the thing. And just like an adult without head lice, if you say head lice to someone, it's very common for them to want to scratch their head, especially if you talk about like, oh, this child got head lice. You're like, ooh, even if you've never had head lice. And the trouble with having had entities is you have this sensation, you know what the sensation is, but you're using your sixth sense, you're using your intuitive capacity to sense, which is always going to be more amorphous than the physical. And yet we can feel things physically. An empathy response to someone else's pain can evoke a physical reaction in us. So if you've been experiencing this, your mind is cognitively biased to keep paying attention to this. So your mind is constantly wanting to go to, is it there, is it there? It's like if you have a sore spot in your mouth, you might keep poking it with your tongue. So your awareness is going to want to keep poking the spot, and if there's been some damage to your auric field, it needs a little time to heal. I'll do some healing in the session, but there's the getting your nervous system to quiet down, and getting your mind to relax and stop racing, and getting your awareness to stop being focused on that. That's a little bit of a journey, and I'll certainly give you tools to support you in going down that path, but you could easily at the very end of the session still feel like things are attached to you. It's a very, very common thing, and every practitioner that I've trained with has said exactly the same thing. And so knowing going in that the sign of the success of the work isn't that you're going to feel different. There's a very good chance that you won't feel different, that you'll still feel the issue while you navigate through it. So the resource that I want to recommend is Ted Andrews' book, Psychic Protection. Spoiler alert, if you work with me, I'm going to recommend that book to you, almost certainly, unless something wildly different comes up. And it'll teach you how to create protections on your home and strengthen your auric field and build it up so that you're just impervious. It's like somebody with a healthy immune system. If the flu's going around and you're well rested and your immune system's in good shape, you don't really have that much to worry about. Sure, wash your hands, but if you catch it, it's liable to be mild, and most likely you won't get it at all, even if you're exposed. But if you have a compromised immune system, you're extremely vulnerable to, if you're exposed, then getting very, very, very sick. So that's where we're basically over time wanting to build your energetic immune system, your energetic protections, the health and congruence of your energy body, so that you can be really protected, so that you can go through places that they're entities and just not pick them up, just not have them be attached to you. Or if somebody is really grumpy about the way the romantic relationship ended or whatever, your auric field just deflects their grumpiness towards you. It's just easy peasy. There's no space for it to get in. They're not invited. Your guides are there to protect you. It's not a big deal. They can sit and stew in their wrath and hatred and roar, but your auric field is naturally going to diffuse the angry person on the freeway who, is mad that they have to share the freeway with other humans, and your car is where they want their car to be. It just bounces that stuff off. So that's a really good thing. So, as I said, pick up the Ted Andrews book, Psychic Protection. The exercises are going to start supporting you right off the bat. I'm really willing to support people in this. I have a ton of compassion for how scary it is. But the thing that I'm not willing to do, and I want to be really clear about this, is have a worse client experience than I do with my average clients who aren't dealing with this. And what I mean by this is, one particularly memorable time, I got on the phone with someone and he had a bunch of entities, and he was, considering killing himself. It was really acute. And I walked him through all of this. I said, look, you're probably not going to feel like they're gone. This is the reason why. There's damage to your auric field. You have the neural pathways in your brain. We can dismantle those, but it takes time. You're going to have to do homework. And he was like, okay, yeah, absolutely, no problem. So he came, did the session. It went pretty well. It's not usually one and done. I recommend 2 sessions if this is something you're dealing with. And the next thing I know, he's screaming at me on my voicemail about how I'm a liar and a fraud and how could I do this to him. And when I spoke to him, I said, what about this conversation? And he said, oh, I dissociated during that. I don't even remember what you said. And I'm like, you forgot what I said because you were dissociative, and then you accuse me of not having said these things. And it was just a real bummer. It made me really unhappy. Obviously he wasn't happy, and I don't want to put myself in that situation. So some of the phone calls I get, I'll be honest, I have somebody who, it's a Sunday night and they want me to drop everything and do a journey for them, or they, don't have any money, but they want me to do the journey for them anyway. And, by all means, take the free suggestion that I've offered. I totally want you to be free of this, but I need to do this for money. This is my livelihood. So when I work with people one-on-one, there's a finite amount of journeys I can do in a week. And I keep my prices really affordable compared to people of comparable experience because I am passionate about the accessibility. But what that means is I do not have a margin to do this. And I get calls from people who seem to be wanting to tell me how miserable they are in the hopes that it will make me collapse my boundary and work for free or work for a discount or give extra time or all of these kind of things. And that's just not a good client. I'm not good with people who are so desperate that they can't be in a clean, clear energy exchange where they make a calm, considered, aligned decision that they want to try working with me. They understand that they need to do their homework, that they may not feel immediate relief, that they're willing to do that, that they've looked at my, my work overall, it feels like the right choice, and they're quiet enough within themselves that they can be honoring of how they're affecting me. And I get that there are people who are so acute and are so overwhelmed and so frightened that it's like the drowning person. Like if you're a lifeguard, what you know is a perfectly nice person will pull you under when they try to climb you, not because they're mean, but just because they're panicked. And if you're really in that panicked place, I probably can't help you because you probably can't take in the information that I'm offering. And if you're in a place where I set a boundary and you're trying to cross it, the person calls over and over and over and over again, and is leaving these desperate voice messages. Like that's somebody who's not respecting the fact that I'm not available to pick up the phone. And it's just not a good match for me. So I want to be really transparent and open because I've had some amazing results with this area. I've had some clients I absolutely adore that I've worked with this complicated topic. I feel like I have a lot to offer. I know that there are just not a ton of people who have mastery in this area, who have mastery in dealing with entities compared to how many people are suffering from this problem. And so I want to offer this work, but I absolutely need it to be a win-win. And so my invitation to you is perhaps this just gives you more education and perhaps you decide I'm not the right person for you. And I totally honor that. I have no problem with that. I actually want to be kind to both of us because if you spend time trying to get something from me that I'm not able to provide, then I'm taking you away from going to work on finding someone else that you would like to explore with, or you'd like to get help from, or that feels like a better match. You're intuitive enough to sense these things around you, and I believe you're intuitive enough to feel into whether you would like to have my help or not, whether it's a good match. And if you're somebody who wants a lot of time outside of sessions, that's not something I provide. So I'm not going to be available on demand. I'm just not charging enough for that. And so if you have a follow-up question or want more support, I'll probably invite you to book another session. And so I really want the win-win. I really want us both to feel good about the energy exchange if we work together. And for the 90 minutes of the soul retrieval, I will be all in service to you if you decide to work for me. But I need you to understand that at the end, The problem isn't going to be one and done, most likely. You're probably going to need to do some homework. You'll probably still feel some of the things. You're probably going to need to address the underlying issues that resulted in the compromised energetic system. There may be mental health work that you need to do to really be free of this problem. And I'm not a mental health practitioner, so that's not something that I can help with. And so I want to make sure that you're really making a decision from an empowered, intuitive place that yes, this is the right thing. And if it is, I'll be all in supporting you. But I don't do refunds. My response to that fellow was to be less open about who I worked with, to put some structures in place so I'm vetting people. And one of the first ways that I vet someone is to say, did they take the time to watch the free content before trying to ask me questions? And so if you did watch this and you want to reach out and ask me some questions via email, please do mention in your email that you watched the video, because that puts me in the like, oh, okay, I know that this person is way more likely to be a better match. So knowing all of this, again, whether we work together or not, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this issue. I hope that this is helpful and supportive. Another recommendation I have is Qigong is really helpful for building up your energy system and your life force energy, and then the natural intuitive knowing of your body is going to help kind of fill things in. So if you have rips and tears in your auric field and you're doing a lot of Qigong, can be really, really helpful for that, again, strengthening of your energy body, because when it's healthy and vibrant, like if people have really healthy, vibrant energy bodies, they haven't had soul loss, they're, you know, in a good place, they're not struggling with addictions, I don't tend to see them as I don't tend to have that be the demographic that has entities attached. And no shame, like I so get that if you're struggling with entities, alcohol will make it quieter. It just exacerbates the problem by damaging your auric field if used chronically and in large quantities. So super complicated topic. Again, I have like 20 years of history in this, and this is just a little bit of what I have to offer. But I really hope this helps you in making a considered decision about whether we'd be the right match to work together. And if it feels like a really true yes for you, I'd be really honored to support you.